And by the way, I recorded this whole video and then I said I'm going to come back and add this in the beginning because I am sick and you can probably hear that. So I apologize up front, but I didn't want to wait for this video. So hopefully it's not too distracting and I'll be better next time. Thanks. Hey everyone, I wanted to do a quick video about building AI agents for accounting professionals and accounting teams because I feel like there's so much excitement, and rightfully so, about AI and AI agents, but not a lot of practical application with accounting in a way that makes sense. Now, what I'm going to show is basically a way to build AI agents that are actually useful, that work every time and do not break or hallucinate, and they do the work in the way that we want them to. We have that control. I find that a lot of times with AI agent products right now, it's you might be able to get the right answer, and even if you do, you don't really have a lot of control on how it gets there. Now, prompting can get you so far, but there still is in my opinion, a lack of control that you give up when you are relying on kind of an out-of-the-box agent to do the work for you. So before we kick it off too much, let's just kind of talk about what an AI agent is, maybe just to kind of get on the same terms there, and then just kind of go from there. So an AI agent essentially is defined as a generative AI, a foundational model like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, and that AI has the ability to interact with tools. So usually that means like an external system or whether it's like a certain tool that you give it has the ability to interact with tools to accomplish tasks on your behalf. So I think that's kind of the loose definition of what an agent is. And so with that definition in mind, we are seeing, again, so much excitement about AI agents. It seems like every company is, that has some kind of SaaS app or app that accountants use is being rolled out with an agent. So I know there's a QuickBooks agent. I think there's multiple agents. There's Xero agents. There's Zapier agent stuff, right? So it's everywhere, and I think it's really cool. Again, but I think there are a lot of shortcomings when you use an agent out of the box like that, or at least those are good for certain things, but not good for other things. And so what I want to kind of show again is an option for accounting firms and accounting professionals to build agents that actually work for them in the way that they want to work. So you can see on my screen here, I got this little diagram I made. So we're going to kind of just walk through this experience first and then just kind of dovetail from there. But basically, this happy accountant is looking to have AI help him with a valuation report. So he says, hey, create a valuation report for last week. The AI says, of course, I can totally do that. I'm a super smart AI, of course. But then it kind of goes into this black box of, it's making the valuation report. A lot of times now with models, you can see has like a thinking, prompt where it kind of thinks and kind of says its reasoning out loud. But you don't really have a lot of influence on how that valuation report is being made. And then eventually it gives you the valuation report and you say, hey, this is not what I wanted at all. This is garbage. This isn't what I asked you to do. And the AI, of course, says, you're absolutely right. Let me try that again. So I think this interaction kind of, loosely sums up a lot of people's reaction in working with AI, at least on the initial go. Now, models have gotten better, and you can get a lot closer to the result that you're expecting with really good prompting up front. But you will always kind of have this little black box thing going on here if you're just using ChatGPT like agent mode, for example. And so I don't think that's the right solution for accounting professionals and accounting firms because you are not really having anything that is reproducible. You lack a lot of really like a good audit trail, right? Because if I am a preparer and I want to make this valuation report, I can run it with a certain prompt, and I might be able to save that prompt for my manager to use after me, but the AI model could change, right? Like ChatGPT can be updated the next week, and all of a sudden you get a slightly different output for your valuation report. And that might be a problem for a lot of companies. It certainly be a problem for me with certain tasks, right? So that would limit me in being able to use something like ChatGPT to be able to do the work that we do. The other part too is you really lack kind of an audit trail. You might be able to see your past chats, and some companies do a better job of this than others, but you really won't have that concrete audit trail of when it was run, who ran it, what were the steps, and what were the maybe the intermediate results that were happening to get to that end result. And so that's all information that you really probably would want to have, especially in a mission critical type accounting workflow that you might have, whether it's client taxes or working with really sensitive data. You just wouldn't really want to mess with that. You really want to have a lot of control over how the answer is achieved in that process. So long and the short, I don't think this is the right way to do it. And I think AI agents being used like this is good for certain things. Like I think like open-ended tasks like planning a vacation or writing an email or writing a report. If it's really open-ended and doesn't have to be a strict format or a strict level of accuracy, go for it this way. That's totally fine. But I think there's a lot of work that accountants do where it is routine and it is manual. And I think that's where I want to really tap in today to kind of show it doesn't have to be that way. And we can use AI to augment the way that we do work to make it more efficient. So I'm going to skip over to this slide here and kind of share the same process, but in a different, in a better way. So again, this user, she's a happy accountant. She says, hey, make me a valuation report for last week. This AI, it has things called tools, and it's going to be a tool calling agent. That's what we're going to focus on today. So this tool calling agent has a tool called create a valuation report. And so they get the message from the user, and the AI understands that, hey, I have a tool. It seems like the user really wants me to use this tool. I'm going to use the tool and create it for last week. And when I do that, it's going to kick off a series of deterministic steps that are just in code. There's no hallucination. There's no AI. In fact, when it runs those steps, it's going to just kick off that program. And then once the result is finished of that tool call, the AI is going to have that result, and they're going to pass it back to the user. So we're going to look at this a little bit more in detail and in code, but I think that's the first point I want to hit on is a tool calling agent is basically an agent that you equip with the work that you want to get done and how it gets done. And I think that's a really important concept and much different than this, right? Where you say, I want an end product, I want a valuation report, and then AI kind of just through its own training and through its own development to be as intelligent as it is today, which it is very intelligent, but you want it to be done a certain way, or your firm might need it to be done a certain way, your client might need it to be done a certain way. And so we need to outline that to the AI and say, hey, this is how I want you to execute this. And so we will create a custom workflow that will do the steps that we need exactly as we need it. It will have a durable audit trail. It will be clean. It will be reproducible. You could run it one time. You could run it 1,000 times. It will always have the same answer. That is the consistency and the, again, audit trail and reproducibility that I think accountants need and expect from software, and what we shouldn't tolerate anything less than, to be completely honest with you. And it is within our grasp, and I think that's the important thing I want to kind of convey. It's going to take a little extra work, and it's building these things is not easy, but it's never been easier, and I think it will get easier. And I think with the right kind of knowledge of the tools that are available and kind of how the core concepts work, it will be not insurmountable to build these agents. So let's go ahead and keep going here. So this is the tool calling agent, again, kind of in practice. And what I want to kind of focus on in this picture is this kind of breakdown of work. So accountants generally, I think, have 3 buckets of work. And you could, say there's a 4th or a 5th or whatever. But, for the most part, I think most would agree that it kind of falls into client relationship work, routine process-oriented work, and then like ad hoc tasks. So client relationships, handling client emails, writing emails, meeting with the client, all that kind of stuff. Routine process-oriented work is work that is, the actual work, like the actual steps that you take, whether you're reconciling the bank account or you are preparing a journal entry in Excel. Like that is the actual work that you tend to do day in and day out. And then ad hoc tasks is where stuff just comes up and you might have to work on it. It's not really, always written out really well and well defined that you're going to do that every single month end or every quarter end. But it is work that we have to do nonetheless. So that's how I'm breaking it down. And you might, say, hey, if you're a VP or a partner, you probably have more client relationship work. Agreed. If you are a staff accountant or senior accountant, you might have more routine process-oriented work. Agree. So it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all, but I think generally you can think of your role and where it kind of fits on this scale, and use that to kind of assess, where can an AI help me do my work. And so we'll scroll back down a little bit, and this is the exact example of a tool calling agent that I've already covered. But what I want to kind of show is that this kind of setup really augments the accountant, and that's why I made my site Augmentic Accounting, because this really, we are telling the AI how we want the work to be done, and we're going to have it do it for us, but we still own kind of that review. We have human in the loop, right? We still need to kind of supervise and make sure that we're doing our due diligence on what the AI presents to us, right? And so it's really going to more augment the work that we do versus completely automate it, which I think is still a very net positive, and I think honestly is better than just a full automation. We are not there in terms of AI intelligence where it can just take our job and we can sit Mai Tais on the beach, right? That's not where it is, and I don't think it ever will be that. But in any case, in this example here, again, there's our AI model. It's the brain with the little chip design inside, and we're going to pretend that this is using GPT-5 model. And this person asks, hey, can you make a journal entry for me? The AI says, this user is asking me to make a journal entry. I have a journal entry tool available I can run. And it goes up and runs that tool and gives the answer back to our happy accountant, right? So this AI is augmenting how fast that accountant can do his work. Instead of having to make a journal entry himself manually, maybe that takes 30 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours. It can now take 10 seconds to just type that out and get the result back. So really cool. Okay, cool. So I'm going to talk about something that's a bit technical. So bear with me, but I think it is important. And I think once you kind of get past the initial, off-putting vibe that you might get from looking at something like this, it'll make sense and you'll be good. You'll be okay. So stay with me. But basically, let's talk about how these agents work under the hood and what's some important kind of concepts to understand with, augmenting accounting work with AI. So I'd say the first thing, what I think is really important, this is maybe one of the most important things, in my opinion, that will happen to accounting, is we need to think about the work that we do, especially that work that is in that kind of bucket of, gold here, this routine process-oriented work. That work should be thought of as graphs. And now graphs in the sense of a series of steps. So you could say steps or graphs, however you want to call it. Right, there are workflows where if you have a process, say you have a revenue journal entry, and in that revenue journal entry, you need to go pull a report from Stripe, you need to put it into Excel, you need to pivot on a certain field, check some number, and then if everything looks good, you need to export it, into a different format to go into the journal entry or to go into your general ledger, right? So right there, we've listed off like 4 discrete steps that happen in that process. That's the same for a lot of accounting processes, right? I'm sure if you have your own process, you can think in your head, okay, what are the steps I have to do this kind of this task or this process, right? So graphs are really important as a concept to understand, is that we can make a graph into a tool that the agent can use. And so if we think about that same process I just outlined with the revenue entry, we can tell an AI agent, hey, these are the steps that I need you to take in order to, do this tool. And what the AI agent is going to do is it's not going to go follow those steps. It's going to just execute that graph. And once that graph starts, everything from through that graph until the end is just code, right? So there's no AI, there's no hallucination. What the AI will be given is the end result, and that can communicate back to you, or you can save it in a file or something like that, right? So that is much different than having the AI work through what you want it to on its own accord, right? So let's talk about it here and show how it works. So I have graph. I use a library called LangGraph. They are the people that make LangChain, if you're familiar. It's a Python library. It's open source. It's a fantastic library. I think there's, again, a lot of accounting processes that can be considered as graphs. That's the hill I'll die on, I guess. But and so in this case, I have a graph here, a simple graph where has an agent node or a router node, and there's a tools node. So I only have 2 nodes in this case. And basically what's going to happen is my agent is going to get my chat request. It's going to get my message. And if I say something that's going to trigger a tool call, it will go to the tools node and execute that tool, and then come back to me and say, hey, is there anything else I can help you with, or is that it? And I can say, yep, all good, thanks. Or I can say, yeah, actually, I need this XYZ as well. So let's go ahead and kick this off, and I'll show how this works live. Again, ignore the code for a hot minute. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it is relevant. And I think programming is a fantastic tool for accountants if you can kind of get up to speed with it. And it's never been a better time with AI and vibe coding, right? So definitely worth checking out. So I'll go ahead and kick off this agent. It's basically a command line interface agent. You can see it's asking me questions. I can say, hi, who is the president of the U.S.? And it's going to print out my message. I just had it do that to be really detailed in how it shows up here on the chat. So it's thinking about it. It should give back a response here in a hot minute. Cool. So there it is. So what I want you to see is this AI message here. So as my last update, the U.S. president was Joe Biden, blah, blah, blah. So this is just a basic chatbot that is using OpenAI GPT model. And so just like anything else, you can just chat with it, right? But what it does have access to is those tools. So I have a tool that we will use called List Invoices in Folder. So I have a folder that I'm looking at, your regular kind of file explorer folder here. And I can say, hey, tell me the files in the invoices folder. And what it should do is you should see, and the next time it sends its kind of trail here, it should show a tool call. And we can see here, I'm going to try and find it on my screen, right here. So tool call, it's right over here. Sorry, it's kind of being cut off. Tool calls, name, list invoices in folder. That's the name of the tool. And in there also there'll be a tool message, which is the result. So it's telling me, hey, the slice invoice example PDF is in that folder. And we can see here from the editor that we see that invoice there. So that is coming from this tool where I'm telling the AI, hey, this is the folder path I want you to look in, and I want you to tell me all the files that are in that folder path and return that list to me. And I give this agent that tool. You can see I kind of define all the tools here, and then inside that is the list invoices and folder tool. So now that agent has that tool where it can list those invoices, right? So that's great, and that's really cool. You might be saying, okay, whoop-de-doo, what's so great about that? Well, now I can also kind of chain that tool call and that tool result with a different tool call. So I can say, hey, let's extract the invoice information for the sliced invoice file. So I'm not even giving the real file path of that PDF. I'm just saying, hey, in layman's terms, or in, I guess, natural language rather, give me the invoice information for that file, and let's see what it does. So make sure I hit send. So it's going to think about it. What it should probably do is, again, use a tool called extract invoice information. That is this tool up here. And so it's going to be given a PDF, break that PDF into chunks, and I need you to extract certain key values out of that invoice. And you could model what you want it to extract kind of based on your own specific needs. So maybe you didn't have an invoice, maybe you had a lease agreement, right? And you could ask the AI to go through that lease agreement and look for certain key terms like start date, end date, etc., and store those results in an actual structured object, not just random text, right? And so you can see here, look, it got the result. It is. I'm going to put it into a different file just to make it better to look at. And we'll say format nicely. Oh, it did that for me down here, so that's even better. But you can see down here, it gave me the breakdown, the slice invoices demo, vendor, reference order number, invoice number, blah, blah, blah. This all comes, if we open up that PDF, we can see slice invoices. There's the kind of address, I think is one of the options it was listed here. Build to, test business, blah, blah, blah. And we have line items too. So we could say, hey, there was one line item. It was web design, blah, blah, blah. Total for $93.50. So I chose this file because I think this is the file that Blake Oliver was testing with the Perplexity AI browser, AI agent browser. I think it's Perplexity Comment, I think. Don't quote me on that. But so basically, I just wanted to kind of do apples to apples with what he was doing. But You can have AI extract that information, and really what you could do, and what I just haven't done, but also add a tool to make like an API call to Zero to post this invoice, right? You have these fields, so now you could post that invoice with an API call, right? So there's so much that you could do, and if you think it, you can probably build it genuinely. And so I think that's something that's really cool with this as well. So yeah, so that's kind of how it works. So yeah, so that's kind of how like the tool calling agent works. You could do all kinds of silly stuff. You could say George likes his chicken spicy, and we'll just say let me just shut this down and then restart it. So I'll just say use the prepend Bennett tool with this word zebra. So it should basically take that word zebra and prepend instead of Bennett, it's going to prepend George likes his chicken spicy. So I do that. Obviously, it's a very silly thing, but it's flexible. You can build it exactly how you want. And so if you have accounting processes that need to be done a certain way, or have to look a certain way, or be done in a certain series of steps, then that's great. So you can see here, George likes his chicken spicy, zebra. Cool. So you might be saying, okay, great, that's awesome, Bennett. People can write scripts on their computer. Python's been around for a long time. That's nothing new. What you're really showing here is not really applicable, or it's not really useful, because I can't have people on my teams just running local Python scripts that aren't transferable, or no one knows how to maintain. And I would kind of agree with you there, because I think that just having these on your team's machines, isn't really a replacement for like work, and it's not going to really help your team gain efficiency. But what I would say is that we can start to think about these agents and being paired with like a front end chat interface, hosted on your own site, or hosted on a secure site, or your server. And then you can start to think about, okay, if I can just give my team members this URL to go interact with this agent, well, then maybe we have something there. So I'll go ahead and show you what this looks like. I have, in this example, 3 agents. These are just, again, fake agents. They are not actual agents in terms of like they have tools that I showed in the last demo, but these are just plain agents. And I'm going to show you what that looks like on like a front end interface that is like just a sample interface, right? So here's my home page, nothing fancy. But if I go here, and this is just a fake website, just a fake vibe-coded website kind of thing here. I'm going to go here and I can see my agents, right? These 3 agents are the agents that I just shared with you here, right? So I have the cash agent, the bank reconciliation agent, and the accounts payable agent. And the accounts payable agent is inactive, right? So if I go back here, I can see I can't chat with the accounts payable agent because it is marked as inactive. But the other 2 I can. And so, if I was on a team and my team had access to this kind of tool where I could go talk to the agent and say I'm the accountant that's responsible for cash, right? So I can come to this agent chat and I can say, hey, I need your help with cash. I can't type. So it's just like any other chat agent, it is given a certain context. It won't really help you with something it doesn't really know how to do. I can ask it, what tools do you have? And it should give some basic information there. And so, yeah, and you can say like, what is your name? So cash agent, right? So that kind of stuff. If I go back and I switch to the bank reconciliation, I can say, what is your name? What is your purpose? Right? So bank reconciliation. And all kinds of other cool stuff. Like you could, I think I told it when my grandma's birthday was, because I was testing something. So let's see, what is my grandma's birthday? September 26th. So which is true, because I gave it that information, right? So I just do that to show that you can, ChatGPT isn't going to know that unless I provide that. But you can decide how you kind of pipe in information to these agents. Maybe you didn't want to put in, a family member's birthday, but you wanted to say, when this agent kicks off, this is the client I want you to kind of talk about, or this is the client that we're going to talk about. And it'll say, okay, I can get the information for that client and we can talk about or chat about that client. So This kind of web interface, I think, is a really good, promising option. Again, it is hard to build these things. I wouldn't just say any random person can go build these. But that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile checking out and exploring. And if you have any questions at all, I'm happy to chat about this kind of stuff. This stuff is obviously very interesting to me. So, let me know if you're doing something similar, if you've seen other kinds of agents out in the wild, or if you think that something like this would be useful to you. Because, I think for me, this is where AI can be helpful, is that following of the steps that we give it to kind of execute complex workflows. That to me is an unlock that I don't think has been, really fully baked in. And if you think about it, once you kind of get that structure set up with your accounting firm or your accounting team, you could set up these agents to be more than just one, right? So think about it this way. We have a fixed asset agent, and this fixed asset agent has context, right? So we kind of tell it what its purpose is and how it's supposed to help users. Then we give it those tools in these, create depreciation JE, create impairment JE, etc. And those tools are defined code steps that we have programmed in that agent, right? So it is not going to hallucinate how it gets that answer. It is going to follow those series of steps, whether you do it once, whether you do it a million times, right? And so we can give it those tools. And then you can do the same thing for a revenue agent, right? So I have a revenue agent. I'm going to give it the context. What is things that the revenue agent should know to be successful, in its role. And then I'm going to give it some certain tools, so create revenue accrual JE, prepare revenue reconciliation report, etc. And then you could have these, you could have a bunch of these, right? You could have 10, 20, 30 agents, I guess. And then you could also have agents that review the other agents. And we'll talk about LangGraph Supervisor and multi-agents in another video. I don't want to talk about that now because I'm probably already going long. But we could talk about that in another video because I have some demos I can share with that as well. But yeah, so really, what I would say from this video, what I'm hoping to get across is that stop using agents like this, or stop thinking of agents only like this. If you need a really certain kind of rigid workflow, think about agents like this. Think about agents with tools, or think about your workflow as graphs. And you can use deterministic, Python programming, or it doesn't have to even be Python. It can be any programming language. But you can use deterministic programming to accomplish the results that you want to accomplish in a more controlled manner that makes you way more efficient. But you don't sacrifice that ability for an audit trail. You don't sacrifice the ability to reproduce the result. You don't sacrifice the control. So to me, this is the right approach for accounting firms. So let me know if you guys are doing something similar, if you've heard about other stuff similar to this. I would love to hear if accountants or accounting firms are using tools like LangGraph and LangChain to build out agents. I think it's super interesting. It is easier than ever to build these. It is definitely not easy, but it is easier than ever. So, it's an exciting time to be in. And again, if you have any questions or want to continue the conversation, let me know, because I'm happy to always do that. This stuff is super exciting to me. So with that, I'll wrap it up. Thanks, everybody.